Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Tuesday, August 23rd edition of Touch 'em All, presented by Sports Map Elite. Vocally in a little bit better shape today than I was last week. I appreciate y'all bearing with me last week through a couple, a little bit tougher broadcasts for me. Really looking forward to going through today's slate of games. I have a little bit of a lower betting volume than normal. We've had a little bit of a cold last couple days, but should be in better shape here today. I'm hoping. We've certainly done the work. First game does start up here in about 18 minutes, and I do have action on it, so I'm going to get to that in just a moment. Before I do, I just want to direct everybody towards sportsmapelite.com as always. Our baseball team over there, myself, BC, and Joe, we've been putting in a lot of work to put out winning picks. It's been a pretty good August overall for us. So certainly excited about that. Football, obviously, right around the corner. We've got a ton of exciting stuff coming your way with that. Christelle, BC, myself, Joe, everybody's been really hard at work to prepare for football season as well. And then obviously, Michael Ablin's coming through with his UFC picks as well. So a lot of good stuff, a lot of winning going on. Feel free to give us a follow on Twitter, sign up on the site. We'd love to have you. And without further ado, we'll go ahead and go through the games for today. The first one on the board is actually game one of a doubleheader. That's going to be the Cardinals and the Cubs from Wrigley Field today. That's going to be a 2:20 Eastern time first pitch in about 17 minutes here. It's going to be Adam Wainwright and Javier Assad. Assad for the Cubs making his major league debut. Tough assignment for him against a Cardinals team that's 9-1 in their last 10 games. I like the Cardinals in the first 5 innings, laying the half run minus 0.5. That comes in at minus 130. Look, Adam Wainwright is a guy that I typically strongly prefer to back at home. This is actually a spot on the road where I'm pretty comfortable with it. He pitched at Wrigley earlier this year, was dominant through 7 innings, allowed only 2 runs. He's actually thrown 14 innings against the Cubs this season over 2 starts and only allowed those 2 runs in total. So it's a team that he has a lot of experience with, a team that he's pitched really well against. I think he'll be pretty comfortable at Wrigley today because it's a ballpark he's pitched in quite a bit as well. And then I think you look at what Wainwright's done really generally. 5 of his last 7 starts, 0 or 1 earned. That's, tells me that he's pretty consistent. There are a couple blow-ups here or there that you'll see from him through the season. But, I honestly just don't quite think the Cubs are the team to do that today. They obviously got blanked yesterday by Jordan Montgomery. It's not a terribly impressive offense. So I think it's a really good spot here to ride the red-hot Cardinals as they head to Chicago and try to continue to win that series. Quick look at Javier Assad. He's not a very highly touted prospect. It was hard to find a lot of information on the guy. He's pitched pretty well in the minors this year, 2.66 overall ERA. But this is a really tough Cardinals lineup right now. They're actually number 1 in baseball at the moment against both right-handed and left-handed pitching since July 15th. So just not a team that you want to get in front of, and it could be a bit of a long day for him. Moving into the evening games, all the rest of the games are going to be this evening. That's going to be 9:03 Cincinnati Reds, 9:04 Philadelphia Phillies tonight from Philadelphia. Certainly missed the call in this game last night. I had the over in their game. Thought the Reds bullpen game would blow up in their faces, and it really didn't. So good for them. Tonight's going to be Nick Lodolo and Ranger Suarez going at it. A couple lefties. So the first thing I do is I look at how these teams have performed against left-handed pitching of late. Dating back to the last month or so, Philadelphia 4th in the league in WRC plus against lefties, Cincinnati 18th. So decent load of edge for Philadelphia. Makes sense, right? I mean, it's a bit of a better lineup. Looking at the bullpens, though, Cincinnati's bullpen has actually been better in August, so somewhat nullifies it there. So I really start to look at the starting pitchers here. Nick Lodolo has a pretty okay baseball savant page. The peripherals aren't bad for him. A few too many walks, though, have really hurt him. His expected ERA for the season hovering right around 4. So nothing spectacular, but nothing terribly worrisome with him either. He's got great stuff. This is a highly touted prospect for a reason, and he's certainly flashed it at times this year. And he's been really good since the All-Star break. ERA around 2.5 since then. What scares me with him, he's got an ERA of 8.5 this season on the road. And he has made most of his starts at home, so he hasn't had too much experience pitching on the road. Obviously, Citizens Bank Park is not an easy ballpark to pitch in either. He's also struggled in the first inning. ERA up around 6 in the first inning. So It'll be interesting. I think if Lodolo gets through the first inning early, this game could stay low scoring for a while. You look at Ranger Suarez on the other side, pretty decent contact profile in Baseball Savant. He needs it. His strikeout and walk numbers are nothing spectacular. Overall he's been okay on the season, but he's been really good recently. He didn't allow a single run in July. 1.86 ERA in August, 7 shutout innings against Cincinnati in his last start. One interesting note here, both the pitchers in this game, Lodolo and Suarez, they each faced each other last time out. Meaning they each faced these opponents. Both of them threw 7 scoreless innings. So you can make an argument based on that angle for maybe a first 5 under. I'm not playing it. I think you've got 2 starters that are running into the same team twice in a row. There will be adjustments made. I think there's kind of a lot of variance actually to what the results in this game might look like. A little more on Suarez. He's allowed 0 or 1 earned run in 5 of his last 6 starts. So I think he's the hotter hand here. I think it makes sense that Philadelphia would be a pretty big favorite in the game. Slightly into the under, just tough in that ballpark. So no real side here. If anything, I might lean the Reds on the money line, might lean an under, but nothing in my opinion worth betting in this one. Heading out to Pittsburgh, we've got the Braves and the Pirates, 9:05, 9:06. Braves massive favorites on the road with Max Fried on the mound against JT Brubaker, over under 8 runs in this one. I'm going to be on Atlanta, first 5 innings on the run line. It's a little bit square, laying the half run with them, comes in around -140. I get it. It seems like the most obvious play, but I really think it is in this spot. Max Fried has obviously had a great season. His expected ERA is well under 3. You look at what he does month to month, he's really consistent. He's posted an ERA under 3 in each of the last 3 months individually. That tells me that there aren't really a bunch of, highs and lows with this guy. You look at what he did against Pittsburgh back on June 9th, 6 innings, 1 earned in that game. He comes out of the gate hot. He's got an ERA around 1.17 in the first inning. So, Fried's typically a pitcher who I want to be getting behind when he's pitching. And especially today, taking on JT Brubaker. This is a guy who is your run-of-the-mill, below-average right-handed pitcher. Atlanta's a team that can absolutely smack around a below-average right-handed pitcher. He did pitch pretty well his last start against Boston, but you look what he did before then. Previous 13 innings, 12 earned runs, 23 hits. So I'm not really buying into what we saw against the Red Sox. That's a team that doesn't hit right-handed pitching well anyway and hadn't really ever seen him. So I think JT Brubaker regresses back to his below-average self today. He's got an ERA of almost 5 at home, ERA of almost 5 since the All-Star break. So I would be very surprised if Atlanta was not leading at the end of 5 innings here. So I'm going to lay it with the Braves minus the half run of the first 5 at -140. Next up, we've got game 2 of the Cardinals and the Cubs. Their doubleheader from Wrigley today. Much lower total in this one of 7. A little bit perplexing. Does make me want to take a closer look at the wind. I'm not going to have any bets here. We're going to see what happens in game 1 first. Get a feel for how the bullpens are used. This is going to be a bullpen game for St. Louis. Jake Woodford is scheduled to start it. He is not a guy who's pitched deep in the games. He threw an inning and a third just on Sunday. So clearly not going to go more than maybe 2 innings in this one. He's actually pitched against Chicago a bit this year. He's thrown 4 innings, allowed 3 runs. So nothing super exciting. You look at these 2 teams in the bullpen, they've both been around average in the month of August. But like we talked about with game 1, St. Louis's bats are absolutely on fire. Adrian Sampson has been doing a good job limiting hard contact. He definitely pitches to contact in general, but you look what happened when he saw St. Louis back in June, pretty decent, 5 innings, 2 earned. 5.2 shutout innings in his last outing. He's typically a guy that's going to go out there and give you around 5 innings, allow around 2 or 3 runs. He's a serviceable starting pitcher. Doesn't really have any notable home-away splits. Doesn't really have any notable pre- or post-All-Star break splits. So the way I look at it, you've got the Cubs with a pretty average righty going up against St. Louis during a bullpen game. I do think that gives you a little bit of a pitching advantage for Chicago in game 2. But we don't know what the bullpens are going to look like, and the Cardinals are not a team I'm about to fade. So I think the number is well adjusted with the Cardinals being this small of a favorite. As of now, just not a game that I feel like I know enough, and frankly, a game I'm not super interested in betting. Great game tonight from Los Angeles. It'd be the Milwaukee Brewers and the LA Dodgers. Awesome pitching matchup between two sort of fringe Cy Young contenders between Corbin Burnes and Tony Gonsolin in that one. Obviously, a low total around 7. Dodgers favored at home as they normally are. So minus 147 for LA. These are two teams that faced these pitchers last week. We're seeing a lot of that right now in the scheduling where teams who are not in the same division have these two matchups with each other's that come within a week. So Corbin Burnes saw LA last week. Dodgers eventually got to him in that one. He pitched pretty well, kind of faded out at the end. 5.2 innings, 3 earned, 6 strikeouts, 2 walks. So respectable stuff, especially against a lineup like Los Angeles. Not bad at all. It is tough, though, right? I mean, the Dodgers at home against right-handed pitching are really tough. Dodgers in general against right-handed pitching are really tough. We saw what they did to Sandy Alcantara the other day. Now he sees them twice in a short period of time, and by his standards, he's been in a little bit of a skid. For Corbin Burnes, his ERA in August is around 3.5. Since the All-Star break, a little bit over 3.5. ERA is a run higher on the road for him than at home. So there are some warning signs that this may not be one of Corbin Burnes' vintage performances. Dodgers have a tendency to do that to people at Chavez Ravine. You look at the other side with Gonsolin, he was absolutely lights out in Milwaukee last week. 7 innings, two hits, no earned, 8 strikeouts, 1 walk. Just a really good start all around, and he's kind of been that guy. He went through that little bit of a stretch in July where the negative regression we were expecting for him started to come through a bit. You look at what he's done since then, he's been absolutely nasty. I mean, you look at month of August, 0.48 ERA, 1 run allowed in his last 19 innings of work. He's got an ERA of 1.5 at home. The big factor for me in this game and where my bet comes into play, you look at these two pitchers in the first inning. Corbin Burnes on the season, 0.70 first inning ERA. Tony Gonsolin, 0.82. These are two of the best pitchers in the game as far as getting out there, getting a quick 3 outs to start a ball game. I think it's going to be a well-pitched game anyway. I would have played this no runs first inning up to about 170, minus 175. I got it at minus 145. No brainer for me. I'm going to be all over that. No runs in the first inning in this one, coming in at minus 145. Heading into the AL, we've got the White Sox and the Orioles from Baltimore. O's pitching Austin Voth against Dylan Cease going to the mound for the White Sox. White Sox minus 144 favorites. O's plus 124 at home. I'm actually showing the White Sox now around minus 130. So money has come in on Baltimore, backing Austin Voth. I'm going to go back to the Nerfy again here. I picked it up at minus 135. I'd probably play it up to about minus 150. Quick reasoning on why on that, and then I'll get into the game more generally. Austin Voth has thrown 10 first innings since arriving in Baltimore. He's yet to allow a run in any of them. Dylan Cease has been lights out in general. His ERA in the first innings around 3 for the season, but you look what he's done since the All-Star break, 1.86, 1.34 on the road. He's been absolutely nasty. He allowed 0 or 1 earned run in 13 consecutive starts heading into his last start against Houston. This is just not a guy that you want to mess with right now, and I think he should get out of the first inning unscathed against Baltimore. Looking more generally, obviously with Dylan Cease, the one problem for him is sometimes he starts walking guys. That's kind of the one bugaboo if you look at his Baseball Savant page. Baltimore doesn't walk a whole lot. They like to swing. They swing early in counts. I think it's a great matchup for him. I think his strikeout prop over. I haven't had a chance to look at what exactly that number is, but I think that's an interesting angle here as well. Looking at Austin Voth, he's fascinating to me. When he finished up in Washington at the end of May, he had a 10.13 ERA, just pitching absolutely horribly. Ever since he joined the Orioles, he's been really good. Posted an ERA of 3 in June, 2.75 in July, 2.76 in August. So just really consistent. Maybe not a bona fide ace, but a really strong starting pitcher. He did pitch against the White Sox in June through 3 innings, 1 earned. He was still sort of building up from the bullpen into the rotation at that point. This is a guy who I've made a ton of money betting on in the last month and a half, Austin Voth. Since the All-Star break, 2.22. He's just been really consistently solid. These are both teams that hit right-handed pitching pretty well. Baltimore does have the bullpen advantage of the month of August, so that's worth noting as well. But just generally speaking, I I think Baltimore on the money line might be the side that I'd lean, but I don't really care to fade Dylan Cease the way he's been pitching. I think the best way to look at this is no runs in the first inning. Everything else, totals are really low. First five total 3.5. Not really interested in that. So I think we'll get through the first inning scoreless, pocket another win. Next one, we've got 9-1-3 Toronto Blue Jays continuing their series at Fenway against the Boston Red Sox, who are plus 120 at home here. Over under 10, a bit of a high total, but Fenway's been sort of playing that way of late. This one's going to be Ross Stripling and Josh Winkowski. This is a pretty straightforward bet for me on Toronto minus 130. Stripling has been pitching really well. Obviously, he threw a perfect game into the seventh inning in his last start. That started, making waves through the news as he got deeper into that game. I don't think he was ever going to finish it. He's just not built up to throw a complete game. But you look what he's done against Boston this season. He's thrown 14 innings, allowed only 5 earned. That's a 3.21 ERA on the season in that split. The stuff for Stripling's never been great, but his command is awesome. He's 96th percentile at avoiding walks. His expected ERA is around 3.5, so pretty solid, but he's been really good of late. You look what he's done in first innings. He's under 3 in the ERA. Since the All-Star break, 2.45. So he's just been really consistent, right? He's not going to go out there and give you 7 or 8 innings typically, but he'll give you 4 or 5 strong innings. I think that's what we'll get from him today against a Boston lineup that's bottom third in the league against righties. The other side with Winkowski, he's taking on a Toronto lineup that's really good against right-handed pitching. He's also just hasn't pitched well. You look at what he's done in July and August, averages out to an ERA around 6 over that period. Typically a guy that will allow somewhere between 3 and 5 runs. He's not going to go more than 5 innings. He's just really not fooling anybody. And I think the gap actually gets deeper when we go to the bullpens. These two bullpens since August 1st, Boston 29th in the league in ERA, Toronto up at 6th. So I look at this game, Toronto hits right-handed pitching better. Toronto has the better starter on the mound. Toronto has the better bullpen. Minus 130 just feels light. I would have made him about minus 160. So Blue Jays it is, minus 130. Next game in the AL, 9-1-5, 9-1-6. The Anaheim Angels, notably not from Los Angeles, are heading to Tampa Bay to take on the Rays. The Rays are also technically not from Tampa. They play in St. Pete, but I don't have enough care to talk about it much further than that. Jose Suarez and Corey Kluber on the mound in this one. Rays, decent favorites, minus 172. Angels, plus 152, over under 7. This is one where I think I'm on Anaheim in the first 5 here, plus the half run, and it may sound a bit contrarian and a bit out there. I think it'll sound less so once I walk through it, though. You look at what Jose Suarez has done recently. Obviously, he's been markedly below average on the season as a whole, but his last 4 starts, he's been really good. 22 and 2/3 innings pitched over that span, 3 earned runs. So, he's pitching deeper into games, averaging more than 5 innings per start, not allowing really any runs at all. He's got a 1.19 ERA since the All-Star break. And then you look at Tampa, they're really just about average against left-handed pitching. So, not really a team that scares me too much. And the way he's been pitching, I think he's in a decent position to sort of keep that going. Sorry, a lot of solo talking. Got to sip some water here or there. And then I look at the other side, Tampa Bay with Kluber. He's just not really getting it done recently. He doesn't walk anyone, so that's great. He's 99th percentile in walk rate, but ERA over 6 in August, ERA around 5.5 in July. He's allowed 4 or more earned in 5 of his last 9 starts. This is not an Angels offense that's great, but they crushed him in Anaheim back in May for 8 runs in 3 innings. They're starting to play a little bit better recently. Having Mike Trout back certainly helps them quite a bit. I just think that the Rays are a little too big of a favorite here. I like the Angels in the first 5 plus the half run. I got that at plus 105. I don't hate a first 5 money line play on Anaheim either. I'm playing it a little bit safer, but the way Jose Suarez has looked recently, I think he's a guy worth investing in, for at least for today. Next game down in Houston, we've got the Minnesota Twins and the Houston Astros 917, 918 on the betting board. Astros last night were a minus 400 favorite. They've come down to minus 300 now. Twins at plus 250, over under 8. Massive pitching matchup gap here. Justin Verlander and Aaron Sanchez on the mound. Sanchez, his ERA speaks for itself, around 7.5. That's really been backed up by how he's looked in a lot of his games. Obviously, Verlander is probably the leader for the AL Cy Young right now, ERA under 2 on the year. Verlander did pitch in Minnesota earlier this season through 8 scoreless, so certainly a guy that might be pretty comfortable in this matchup. He has allowed 3 earned runs in each of his last 2 starts. For him, that's a mini slump. Don't know what to make of that, especially, this is a Twins lineup that has been really poor recently, but we know they have some bats that can get it together. Guys like Buxton, Correa, especially Correa hitting back in Houston. I think he might have a little extra juice tonight. Curious to see what kind of a reception he gets. I'm assuming he'll get cheered. I look at the Twins, though. They're just really cold on offense recently. And Aaron Sanchez is not a good option for them on the mound. This is a guy who's basically just a vagabond at this point in his career. Every once in a while, he's serviceable, but for the most part, he just is not very good. His only Twin start was against Detroit. He allowed 2 runs in 5 innings. I think I could allow 2 runs in 5 innings against Detroit at this point. They're just a mess against right-handed pitching. I don't make a whole lot of that. This is pretty simple. I mean, Minnesota's got a massive advantage in the starting pitching. Minnesota's playing much better baseball. I think their lineup's in much better shape. Their bullpen has been better of late. So, just in general, it makes sense to me that Houston would be a huge favorite, but I'm not laying a number like that. If anything, I'd take Minnesota just because baseball is weird and plus 250 is crazy, but just not interested enough. A little bit more interested here in the Subway Series as we jump into interleague play. The Mets and the Yankees, 919, 920. Yankees a small favorite here with Frankie Montas on the mound against Taijuan Walker. Over under 8.5 in this one. It's actually been a little bit of steam coming toward the Yankees this morning as well. I actually think I like the Mets here, and I like the Mets in the first 5 innings especially. I'd rather not involve the Mets bullpen, which has been bottom third in the month of August. But, kind of to walk why, Taijuan Walker hasn't been great for the Mets. Below average overall statistics for him on the season. His expected ERA is around 4.20. That certainly foretells some negative regression. I get all that, but he pitched okay against the Yankees back on July 26th. He threw 6 innings, 3 earned. And his recent numbers don't look good, but a lot of that's because he had the one disaster start at Atlanta. If you actually look at the other starts he's made, he's a guy who he really more often than not is going to give you 5 or 6 innings. He's only going to allow a run or 2. The stuff's always been really good. And I just don't think this is a Yankees team that's hitting right-handed pitching well enough right now to really scare me off of them. The Mets, on the other hand, have been hitting right-handed pitching really well. They're third in baseball since July 15th. And Frankie Montas has been awful since he got to New York. His ERA is 9 with the Yankees. His ERA on the season, really any game he pitches that is not in Oakland, has been horrible. It's hard to find a split other than games played in Oakland where his ERA is under 5. And, you look at his Baseball Savant page, he's not this star pitcher they thought they were acquiring. He's been mostly average in Baseball Savant all year. I think you could make an argument that all he's experiencing in New York so far is the negative regression that we should have expected. So I think the Mets right now have the better lineup. The Mets, I think right now have the better of the 2 starters on the mound, albeit a little bit more of a wash there. And you're getting the Mets, first 5 innings, I got them at plus 120. I think they're too good of a team to get that type of a number with right now, especially with how poorly the Yankees have played for a while. I know we got burned yesterday taking the Mets in this matchup, but I think it's another good spot to do it today, and I'm not going to shy away. So I'm going to back Taijuan Walker and the Mets first 5 innings plus 120 on the money line. Full disclosure for me, that does it as far as the action that I have today. We've got 5 more interleague games to talk through. I don't have action on any of them, but I will talk through them, share where I'm leaning. First one of those is going to be Giants-Tigers, 921, 922 from Detroit. You look at these 2 starting pitchers, they're both there's certainly an advantage for San Francisco with Rodon over Drew Hutchison. I think it's represented in the line. The Giants are huge favorites here. Carlos Rodon actually did face Detroit earlier this year. Through 6 innings, allowed 1 earned. That being said, Detroit is notably better against lefties than they are against righties. We targeted Arizona in a similar spot last week because they're a little bit similar to Detroit, where they're better against lefties. Problem is, I don't think Detroit has Arizona's talent. And I think Hutchison is a step back from Davies, who we were backing in that one. And that was at the same number at plus 200. So, I would love to try to find a way to bet Detroit as a dog. I just can't quite get to it here. Even though they are better against lefties, they're still 24th in the league in that split since July 15th. San Francisco struggles against right-handed pitching a bit, but Drew Hutchison, he just hasn't been good. His expected ERA is actually over 5, meaning you could argue for some negative regression coming his way. He'll usually give you around 5 innings, maybe 3 runs or so allowed. Nothing spectacular. I wouldn't be shocked if he came out and pitched okay today. I also wouldn't be shocked if Rodon came out and took a no-hitter into the 7th or 8th. I could see an under here, but the number is already set so low at 7. I just not a game that I want to get involved with. I don't trust either one of these teams or either one of these starting pitchers to do something here. 9-2-3 Diamondbacks, 9-2-4 Royals from Kansas City. Zach Davies, Jonathan Heasley on the mound here. Royals, small underdogs, right around even money, plus 110, depending on where you look. Diamondbacks, small favorites. Jonathan Heasley has been awful at the starting pitcher for the Royals. His Baseball Savant page gives him an expected ERA of 6.09. One of the worst Savant pages you'll see. It kind of looks like what you see from like a Patrick Corbin. He did face Arizona in May through 5 innings, allowed 3 earned. He hasn't started in the big since August 9th. He's been up and down from Omaha quite a bit this season. With how he's performed, it makes sense. He just really hasn't gotten it done. His ERA in July when he was in the majors was around 8.5. You look at his splits this year when he's been at the big league level. ERA about 6.5 at home, 5.5 in the first inning. So just not really a guy you want to get behind. And Arizona is about 15th against right-handed pitching, so they're really not terrible. I look at the other side, Kansas City. Not a team that really scares me very much with their offense, but they are a bunch of young guys who are trying really hard. Zach Davies, he does a pretty good job most of the time of avoiding hard contact, but he's below average overall because he just doesn't get a whole lot of swing and miss. The stuff isn't great. He actually faced Kansas City in May as well. He didn't get through the 4th inning. He allowed 4 earned runs. So as much as I'd love to fade Heasley here and take Arizona, I'm not really interested in backing Davies in a matchup that he struggled in last time. That being said, Merrifield homered in that game. Benintendi had a couple hits, played a big part in it. Obviously, the Royals are a little bit different looking now. Look, these are 2 teams that aren't very good. I give Arizona a small advantage. I think that's represented in the line. Not a game I want to get involved in unless I saw a huge edge, and I just don't. 9-2-5 Texas Rangers, 9-2-6 Colorado Rockies from Coors Field in Denver. Big total as usual, over under 10.5. Rockies minus 112 at home with German Marquez on the mound. Just nothing here that I want to play. Looking at the game closely, German Marquez has actually been pitching well. He's produced quality starts in 6 of his last 7, despite 4 of those 7 being at Coors Field. ERA around 3.5 in both July and August, so consistently pretty decent. He has pitched better on the road. He struggled at home. ERA almost 6 on the year at home. But like I said, he's been a little bit better recently. One note, Colorado's bullpen is 30th in baseball. So if you do want to bet the Rockies, I would do it in the first 5 innings. I would not look at the full game. Flip side with Dane Dunning, pretty average starting pitcher overall. He has been pretty good recently, 2.60 in August. That being said, all those starts have been at home in what is clearly a pitcher's park in Arlington. He's been starting to pitch deeper into games. He's starting to go 6-7 innings at times, which is great for them. 286 since the All-Star break, but ERA over 5 on the road, and pitching at Coors is not easy. So I don't really want to trust him either, even though he's been pitching well recently. Same ERA in the first inning as Marquez, around 5.5. These are just two guys that have pitched pretty well recently who I don't trust long term. And they're just two lineups that I don't know what I'm going to get. So I don't really have any desire to bet on this game. I wish you luck if you do. Next game we've got here, 927 Cleveland Guardians out in San Diego to take on the 928 San Diego Padres. Padres pretty small favorites, minus 137. Guardians plus 127, over under 8. Aaron Civale making the start for Cleveland. He's had a rough year. ERA 5.63 on the season. A lot of that were terrible starts that came early in the year, though. His April and May were absolutely awful. If you look at what he's done recently, he's been pretty good. 2.70 since the All-Star break, since he came back from injury. His expected ERA is around 4.3, so overall he's due quite a bit of positive regression. It's a San Diego team that struggled to score runs over the weekend, although their numbers against righties overall are actually pretty good. So feels like a really high variance spot for Civale, right? I mean, ERA under 3 since the All-Star break, but ERA 7.26 on the road this year, so ERA over 7 in the first inning as well. So, I don't know what we're going to get there. Clevenger on the flip side, I kind of feel the same way about to some degree. He struggled in his first start, of the season, which came at Cleveland back in May. It's a Cleveland team that's really scrappy, especially scrappy against right-handed pitching. They're certainly the team that's playing the better ball between these two right now. The other thing with Clevenger, he's made 4 walks in each of his last 2 starts. Hard for me to have confidence in a guy that's not finding the strike zone. ERA over 4 each of the last 2 months. He does have better splits at home. He's more than a run better at home than he is on the road. He's been quite good in the first inning of ball games. So, Padres to score first could be an interesting look, but Cleveland's just playing better baseball right now. And I wouldn't be surprised to see them go out and scratch a couple runs across. If anything, I lean Cleveland on the money line at plus 127. I'm not sure they're not the better team at this exact moment. Both bullpens top 4 in baseball in August as well. So you could make an argument for the under if you think these pitchers are going to throw well. Me personally, I'm just staying away from the game. That'll be interesting to see what happens. 929 Miami Marlins and 930 Oakland A's. An absolutely massive rivalry between two teams that are notorious for selling out their ballparks. This one's going to be Pablo Lopez and Zach Logue on the mound. Lopez and the Marlins minus 135 favorites. Low total around 7 here. It's really an immovable force against an immovable object, if you will. Zach Logue has been absolutely terrible. He's allowed 13 runs over his last 2 starts. Obviously the ERA speaks for itself at 6.35. He's just really bad. Baseball Savant backs it up that he's one of baseball's absolute worst starting pitchers. But he's facing the Marlins. The Marlins are absolutely dead last against left-handed pitching. They have a WRC plus of 57 in that category since July 15th. They do not hit lefties. They just got crushed by a few more lefties this last weekend at Dodger Stadium. I don't know how I trust them to score runs. I also don't know how I trust Zach Logue to put up zeros. I don't know. The Marlins might score 10 here. They might not score. Really tough to say with that pitching matchup. On the other side with Pablo Lopez, he's been terrible recently. He got off to a hot start to the season. ERA over 7 in August. He's allowed 4 or more runs in 3 of his last 4 starts. 5 or more runs in 4 of his last 7 starts. ERA well over 6 in the first inning this year, so I wouldn't be surprised to see the A's get on him early. So just 2 starting pitchers that are pitching terribly, but 2 offenses that I don't trust to score runs. If anything, a first 5 over 3.5 is certainly tempting, given how low that number is and how bad these pitchers have been. But then you're sitting there and you're watching a Marlins-A's game, which watching it in and of itself is terrible enough, but you're watching a Marlins-A's game rooting for runs. I just, no thank you. So we're going to move on. Last game on the board, another thrilling old rivalry between the Nationals and the Mariners. Eric Fetty on the bump for the Nats, Robbie Ray for the Mariners. Seattle, massive home favorites here, minus 265, over under 7.5. Long story short for me here, I don't have any plays. I make Seattle a big favorite, maybe not this big of a favorite. If I had to play it, I would lean Washington on the money line. They've been a pretty plucky underdog recently. Cover the run line in all 4 games in San Diego. Won 2 of the 4 games in San Diego. I look at Eric Fetty. He actually pitched okay against Seattle back on July 13th, through 5 1/3, allowed 2 runs. But this is his first Major League Baseball appearance in a month. Most of his starts have been okay, but he's also had some really bad meltdowns in between. Overall, this is a well below average starter. I don't have a ton of faith in Eric Fetty. I look at the bullpens here. It's a massive advantage for Seattle. So if this game's tied going into the late innings, Seattle is definitely going to be the look. I don't know if you're going to get a reasonable number there. Seattle's bullpen ranks second, Washington 19th in the month of August in ERA. You look at the Nats, they're slightly below average against left-handed pitching, which for them is probably their better split. Their bullpen did a good job limiting San Diego over the weekend, so I think this game could be pretty low scoring. 7.5, I think, reflects that, though. Robbie Ray's been really good in his 3 starts in August. 19 1/3 innings, 5 earned runs, so really good there, but he was terrible in July. He's kind of gone on these streaks all year where he'll be really good for a while, he'll struggle for a while. In general, I find him to be more high variance than I think he should be given his talent. And I just don't quite trust enough here to lay a run line. Although if I had to look at the game, -1.5 and -120 is pretty cheap given Seattle's -265. So that's really all I've got there. I'm not playing it. I'm not forcing plays today. I've got 7 of them. That's more than enough, and I feel pretty good about what I've got. Just to kind of take a minute to run through what those bets are. St. Louis Cardinals in game 1, that one's underway. I've bet them in the first 5 innings minus the half run. I don't think there's any score yet in that one. We've got Atlanta in the first 5 innings minus the half run. Super square there, backing Max Fried against Pittsburgh. I just can't imagine them not getting it done. Couple nerfies, Milwaukee and LA tonight, White Sox and Baltimore tonight. 4 really good right-handed starters going in those games who I think get it done early. Blue Jays -130. I think they've got advantages all over the diamond there against the Red Sox. Mets first 5 innings +120. Mostly a fade of Frankie Montas. He's been terrible. I think Walker's a little bit better. I think the Mets are undervalued. And then Anaheim first 5 plus half a run. Believe it or not, I am currently a believer in Jose Suarez. He's been pitching well. Tampa's not that great against left-handed pitching. I think Anaheim hangs around for a while against Kluber, who's been struggling quite a bit. So that's all I've got. Got those 7 plays heading into tonight. Looking to pick up the slack a little bit after a couple not so awesome days on the diamond, but overall having a great season. Looking forward to continuing the winning tonight. Make sure you stay tuned in on the website. I know Joe may have plays today. BC may have plays today. Whole team's been doing pretty well overall. So appreciate your time. Appreciate you stopping by. Exciting news out of Anaheim, by the way. Artie Moreno announcing that he is trying to sell the Angels. If you're an Angel fan, if any of you actually exist out there, you should be really happy about that news. We'll see if the team ends up moving. But it's great news for the Angels. If they're going to be a competitive outfit that isn't just trying to sell a couple players' jerseys, this is a good move. So that's about all I got for today. Appreciate y'all tuning in. I'm going to see about maybe having a guest join on Thursday. I appreciate John Borger for popping in here with some comments. He says he's located in LA and he can't find the Angels. That's pretty normal. They're not located in that county. I would suggest getting on the 5 South until you see a really just ugly concrete stadium pop up on your right, and then you'll know you're there. But I wouldn't waste your time. Anyway, I appreciate y'all's time today. Hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully we win some bets tonight, and have a good